everybody. Excited Utterance here. My name's Hella, and for reals, we're keeping it for reals here over in Aussie land, and it's early. It's super early because Mr. Baldwin, not sorry, Mr. Baldwin, Mr. Rozzy, I think he's got things on and he wanted to make it a little bit earlier. So that means that all the way over here in the future, I had to get up earlier to do my pre-game. Pre-game. So here's my coffee, and it's going to run out pretty quickly. If you want to buy me a coffee, there's a link up in the top of chat. But yeah, here it is 7:32 a.m. Indeed. Poor me. Oh well, too bad. Poor me, but it means I get to hang out with all of yous. Yeah, Rosie baby. Oh, how many ladies are ready to see Mr. Brad today? How many ladies are ready to see? Apparently, he's a bit of a style monger. Yep, he's a bit of a chic dude. I remember his style reports. Hey, Schnibbles. How are you, Schnibbles? What is with this profile pic? I miss the kitty cat. Who is that? Sean Connery? Who is it? It is. All right, time to say hi to some people. Let's say hi. Evie's here. Did Evie raid me? Really? I don't think so. So yeah, Darley raided me 3 hours ago with his very strange court feed that he does during the day. He'll be here in a minute. Free Ricky Bay, I love your name. One day that will come true. Is today the 9th? I don't know, DB. No, well, today isn't the 9th. Today is the 10th. In reality, today is actually the 10th. You are in the past. Yeah, you need to catch up. You need to catch up. My newest wench. And Maddie B is here. Hello. Hello. Now, Ange, we need to talk. We need to talk. Apparently, you streamed earlier whilst I was asleep. That's not on. That is not on. How can you be streaming whilst I'm asleep? Dear me. Get out of my face, Andy Dad Baldwin. He is a bit of a dad, isn't he? He's adorable. All right, hang on. I'll bring in my co-host. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Wonderful. How are you?
I'm pretty good considering it's super duper early. But
Only
you
a little.
know, yeah, I suppose. Okay, fine. Yeah. But look, I'm living with it. Post Punk Mama is here. Hey, you're home, are you? Oh, good. Good to have you here. The Royal We. I love your name. I love your name. What do you have to do when you have to go and we? You say the Royal We has to go we. I love it. I love it. Hey, Mavka, what the hell? And Sean, my Aussie friend Sean in Sydney. Sean the sheep. Now you're an hour ahead of me. Don't make me explain. We are all on the East Coast. You're on daylight saving time. I am not. It's because Queensland is backwards. That's why. Johnny on the spot. Johnny Osprey, how are you? Good to see you. CT girl, how are you? Nice to see you. Now, yes, my newest wench, how are you? Hot Pocket, you're here for the pregame. Well, that's good. That's good. That's what we're doing. And there is a question up at the top of chat. Give me your best moments. If you've got timestamps, go for your life. Yell out. I'd like to know. I have my own favorite moments from yesterday that I want to play. But happy to hear from other people because it's not all about me. Not all about me. Nancy Bear is here. Hey, Hella. Hey, chat. Good to have you. And Mavka says, chat, I prayed to Luigi and my health insurance actually covered my medicine. The god Luigi came through. I wonder what's happening. Like, are they starting to approve health insurance
Well, it was
claims
just
now?
antibiotics for his little issue.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, they don't want that to spread.
No.
Teresa is here. Nice to see you. Uh, no respect, darling. No respect.
No.
You're in Adelaide, are you, Sean? So therefore, you're half an hour out as well. Okay. Yeah, love Adelaide, kind of. You clicked R&M's channel to see you on there. She looked cute, so I closed it. Aww.
I think.
She is cute.
Oh, yes.
Angie's very cute. Good morning, Angel Ray M. Nice to see you. I'm just making coffee. I set my alarm. I'm on summer holidays this week. Oh, really? Where are you at, Angel Ray? So yeah, you're traveling in Adelaide. Cool. Hey, Aussies. Hello, Half Irish. My wonderful mod. Love you so much. In Canada, big news happened in Canada this week. I watched a program on the little penguins. How awesome are they in real life? We don't have them in Queensland. The teensy weensy little ones, fairy penguins, you mean? You're going to have to ask Laura about that. She's down south. Hello, Elrin M Town. I will apologise in advance for not being very attentive. Mama Gritty had a brilliant idea that I will try to do something with. Okay? Tell us about it later then. That's totally fine. Thank you for being here. Hey, JC. Good to see you. And Deanna. Nice to see you. Mavka, my insurance was claiming I didn't exist 2 days ago.
Oh.
Well, look, that happens. That happens. Rachel from Idaho is here. Oh, cat. Okay, that's a new picture of your cat. Nice snivels. Oh, AI Designs is here. Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you. Nice to see you. I haven't seen you for a little bit. Cool to see you. And Chinny's here, my other new wench. Hello. Good to see you, Chinny. You're in Sydney. You're in Avalon Beach, Sydney. Not traveling anywhere this week. That's a nice spot. That's a really nice spot. Sydney's actually got some really nice beaches. I thought Sydney's beaches were really gross, but then I went to Bondi and I was like, actually, it's got a bad name for itself, but it's actually really pretty. Cool. Okay. So I like that you say new wench as opposed to old wench. Like Half Irish and John. Okay, let's get into it. First, I just want to say what a class act is Andy Baldwin.
Thank you. Oh, him.
No. What? That's not quite how I describe you. T-Bone Satchel. No, what a class act is Andy Baldwin. My goodness. He is so complimentary to people that he has been to people who've been so mean to him, right? Like, even people like Nick McClellan and Jerry Holman, he really struggled to say anything even remotely negative about them, didn't he? It was so difficult. Oh, and you have the hots for this man.
No, I think DB was saying he was hot.
Oh, sorry. I thought you liked him too.
Unless DB's talking about me, I don't know.
Oh,
could be.
Okay. Yeah, I know DB quite likes you. I think he thinks you have effeminate lips. But ever since that first moment where you read out his tweet, I think that was love from that moment onwards. Yeah. That happens. Yeah, but he was just so, firstly, humble, but also he would not badmouth anybody. Like, and he had so many opportunities to. Judge Gull, right? Like, he kept saying that she was fair. Right? What? And I get it that you don't want to badmouth a judge that you might like stand in front of again. So fine, I get that. But then to go so far as to say that she was fair, wow. I find that to be something that is really, it's hard to emulate, and I'd like to be more like him in my real life. I enjoyed listening to him. He has a really nice voice too. You have a crush on Andy? He's more my type than Rosie. Interesting. I think that there'll be. If I were to put some money down, I think there'll be a few people that are going to have the hots for Mr. Rossi after tonight. But that is just my little bet. Excited utterance. I chalk that up to diplomatic necessity. Rosie is my exact type, unfortunately. Oh yes. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Oh, Catastrophe is here. How are you, love? So good to see you. Alrighty, so let's get into it. So my favorite moments, and I get to go first because my channel. And anyone else who has ideas, just chuck them at me. And my first one, let's go. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Best to put it on stage, hey?
It would help.
All right. Yeah, it would help. All right. So this, hang on, let me just get my notes. Okay, so this is actually more about Mr. Rossi than it is about Mr. Baldwin. And it's about how Mr. Baldwin was thinking that he couldn't keep going with the case, right? And they hadn't known each other very long. And Mr. Rossi was like, you're not going to let him get away with this, right? And it speaks a lot to
Rosie.
what kind of guy he is. And I just wanted to play that because it was the first time in the interview that I was like, ugh, like heart moment. So anyway, let's just start with that.
After we had been booted off the case, if you want to call it that, Brad Rosie, I did not want to get back on the case. I was so upset about everything that had happened. I thought my career was over. I thought, Jerry Holman had won because he had, gone out and conducted this ridiculous investigation that he had no business. He had a conflict of interest because I had been going after him during this trial, and he wanted me off the case. There's no question about it. And we'll get back to that, how he wanted me arrested and charged with a crime, and he went down to Johnson County and did it. I want to talk about that because that's real third world banana republic kind of stuff. Okay. And we'll talk about that later. But on October 31st, prior to that, I was down in Florida. A buddy of mine has a place down there, and he called me up when I was at my lowest and said, go down to Longboat Key and spend some time. And Brad called me up, and how Brad and I connected and stuff is a kind of an interesting story in and of itself. But now we're 10 months in to our, relationship as partners on this case. And, Brad called me and said, what are we going to do? And I said, I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm not getting back on this case. I can't do it. It's not going to help Rick out. I don't have the emotional energy to do that. And Brad was like, are you going to let them get away with this? Is that what you're going to do? I've known you not very long, but I know this is not how you operate. You're not going to let this happen. You're not going to look in the mirror, are you? And be okay with not fighting back and trying to get back on the case. And then he called me a couple of words that maybe only really good friends can call each other about, my reluctance. And then I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then Kara Weineke and Mark Lehman and oh my gosh, I mean, I can't even think of everybody that was involved in that. All these great people came out of the woodwork, and I started getting re-energized, and we can get on this case and we can fight this thing, and it's an uphill battle, but we can do it because it's right. And Brad was the instigator for all that, wrongly or rightly. He got my mind right back on where it needed to be. And then we came up with the idea of, well, if she's not going to let us back on the case, why don't we go on pro bono? And I want to talk about my law partners real quickly because I could cry talking about them. They are the most awesome people. They
How?
allowed
Okay.
me.
So how often throughout it did he talk so emotionally like that? Like, I could cry. I love this person. I want to hug this person. So emotional. Like, he really is a modern man, isn't he? Like, he's so just he's so open to just showing his emotions, and it's really lovely. And also this whole thing about going pro bono. So guys, this is something that I remember this. I remember the part about them going pro bono, but did they ever start getting paid again? I thought they started getting paid again. Like, weren't they reinstated as the public defenders, and they started being paid again, or had they all this time been pro bono? Can anyone in chat help me with that? Because that's a long time. They did, and they did and did not. Sorry, Catastrophe, can you help me with that? Yeah. Hey, Marissa. Yes.
Oh, the Supreme Court.
Yeah, right, cool, thank you. Yeah. 'Cause I thought so. Yes, because the Supreme Court jumped in, and that's how they got put back onto the case. And so that makes sense, yes, that they would be being paid after that. Because yes, they said that they would go pro bono. They fought so hard to get put back on the case. And they were fine with not being paid. And that just goes to show, like, I've said it before, right? Defense attorneys, not all of them, but quite a lot, they're a special breed. And if they see that somebody is really in need and there's a real injustice about to happen, they jump in, and if they really have to, they'll do it pro bono. And I know defense attorneys who are doing this right now, personally, doing it right now, because they see that someone, even a complete stranger, is in need and an injustice is happening and they need representation, and they're going out there and helping them.
And right? It often can be biting off a lot more than they can chew.
Yeah.
But they're a different breed. And
it is.
It's hard for them to just back away once they're in it.
Absolutely. Go pay them 9/18/2023. So for 1 month.
No, 2 days.
2 days. Sorry, I'm so bad with American dates.
That's fair.
I can't do American dates.
But then Goal stopped paying them for over 6 months.
Right. And they just would not let him. They would not let Richard Allen be unrepresented or represented by somebody who didn't know his case, because he was in such a dire situation. 2 days paid in full before Gull booted them. Wow. Yeah. Cheap bastard. Cheap. All right, let's keep going. So, the next one I wanted to look at was. Okay. Yeah, this is going to make me.
He talks about meeting Allen for the first time.
Oh, that's exactly what I had.
that made me. I'm an alpha male. I didn't cry, but no.
You're not crying. I'm crying. I'm not crying. You are.
No, I was driving into work listening to this, and I was like, That made me.
It's about 42 minutes in. Yeah.
Oh, in the time that I've gotten to know you, you're a heart on your sleeve type of guy. You know, you're a lot like me in that sense, and you're just a genuine human being who's got feelings. You know, and who was profoundly affected by a lot of things that happened in this case. So we're going to get into them. So, Allie, I see that you've highlighted a couple things. Why don't you ask those two questions you have highlighted?
So I'm just wondering, when you first met Richard Allen, and I obviously don't want to know anything about what he said, or just your general how that first meeting was, and like your general impressions of him as a human being.
Rick was before kind of, being in solitary for so long. Rick was, he was I'm innocent. I'm confused. Why? How did this happen? When I first saw him up in Westville, we walked into they treated us really nice for a while in Westville. There was a lot of lies that were told by Gallipo, by the way. One thing that he said is we weren't allowed to bring our phones in. And then I think he said something along the lines of, if you did, you were violating the rules or something. No, we would walk in and they'd have us show them the phone so that then on the way out, they'd have us show the phone. So they knew that we didn't leave the phone behind or something. So, they treated us very nicely the first time that we ever showed up. Because that building where Rick stayed was so far away from the other buildings, we had to get into a golf cart, the equivalent of a golf cart, and they would have to take us in this golf cart all the way, I don't know how far it is, a few hundred yards, to this building that's just gross and disgusting. And, you go in there and you're like, is this how people, I've been to prisons all over the state of Indiana, probably been in every prison at some point in time. And this is by far the worst one I'd ever seen. And it's like out of a mental asylum, like you would imagine, just where where a horror movie might take place in this thing. But they were super nice to us at the beginning, and we went into this room, and it was kind of the captain's room. There was a long like conference room table. And they brought Rick in, like he's Hannibal Lecter, they chained up and stuff. And that first meeting, I remember they brought water. I actually gave him, he couldn't lift his arms up because of the thing. And I had to give him the water, I had to give him the water out of the hand and give it to him. And, he was just confused. And I just believed him, and I walked away, thinking this sucks because I believe him, and that's really the hardest thing for a defense lawyer is when there's lots of hard things, but one of the hardest, and maybe the hardest one, is I actually believe this guy. And now the weight of his defense is on our shoulders, and that's rough. And Rick told me later, I want to tell you this because it kind of connects. So while the trial was going on, we would go down into the lunchroom, to the basement of the courthouse, which it was a lunchroom. It was basically, and the guards that were guarding Rick, I want to say they were the nicest people. They were good human beings.
I'm confused by that.
They were super nice and sweet.
So hang on a minute. Like, who are those guards?
The guards at the courthouse?
No, okay. So he's talking about the guards at the courthouse.
Yeah.
Right.
That were watching.
Because I'm getting confused because there are some not nice guards and there are some decent guards.
Yeah.
Right. So there's guards at the courthouse that they let him put his arm around Rick, and we saw the drawing of that, for example, at the actual trial. But then there's the guards at Westville, not so nice. We know about them, right? So I'm getting as he's talking, he's sort of talking about guards, and then he's talking about the treatment at Westville and things like that. And I'm getting a bit confused because he's going back and forth, and I'm trying to figure out who are the nice people and who aren't.
If this is the part
the cool guards don't have the face tattoos. No.
If this is the part I think it is, then it's discussing his treatment, during the trial.
Right. Okay. Let's keep going. Yep. Thank you.
And treated Rick like a human being, and so we were allowed to bring him food from Rick loves Taco Bell. Okay. He would tell you that. There wasn't a Taco Bell, unfortunately, in Delphi, anywhere close, but there was a little Mexican restaurant, and he knew about it. And so, for example, I brought him tacos, or we would bring him but ribs or sandwiches or whatever. And so here's what would happen at lunch. It'd be us down there in the basement, the 3 guards, 4 guards, and, I would be down there. Jennifer might be down there. Brad might be down there. It depends on what we had going on in the afternoon. If I had a big cross coming up, I would probably not be down there. But most days I was down there. Most days Matt Hoffman would be down there. And Rick he'd eat. We would laugh. We would, with the guards, we'd joke around. We'd talk about our fantasy football teams. We would, Rick would talk about his, funny stories about it, where he used to work, and he's a really funny guy, and it really heartened me, because he was being a human. That was the most human interaction that he had in 2 years, and it was just like he was one of the guys, and he was smiling and laughing, and it just made my heart so happy, because he was being a regular guy. It wasn't anything exciting. We weren't coming up with solving the world's problems. We were talking about our wives and joking about, how they snored or whatever. And that was very meaningful for me. And then he said to me,
thank you.
After one of those lunch sessions, we were getting ready to leave, and he said, "Hey, I want to tell you, I don't know that you remember this, but the first time I met you, you came over and hugged me." And that meant the world to me, because I hadn't seen or touched anybody in a loving way, like in a way where somebody was treating me with respect, or not at least in an angry way, for however long that had been, a month or so. And he said, that meant a lot. I knew at that point in time that, you might actually care about me. And that was just a little thing. It's just what you do as a human being. You see somebody that's in there, you go over there, you need to put your arm around them and say, "Hey man, we're here to fight for you. It's going to be okay." And how are you? And that meant enough to him that he remembered it, a year later or 2 years later. So the first time I met him, I just thought, this is an innocent guy. I believed that. I also knew at that time I didn't know a lot. So I thought I could be disappointed. I could find out things that are going to disappoint me, and I'm going to learn that maybe he did commit this crime. Perhaps that was the case. I thought, I didn't think that would actually happen, and it didn't, because it isn't.
I'm not crying, you're crying.
I just have allergies.
Yeah. You're right. So our R&M, and so it had only been 3 to 4 weeks at that point in solitary, because I was trying to work out how long he was talking about, because at one point he said he goes, it had been 2 years, and I was like, that's not right. I think he was talking about something else, and then but he was actually talking about the first time he met Rick, and that makes more sense, that it had been 3 to 4 weeks of him being in solitary. And for him to have enough still cognitive ability to joke around and have those conversations at that point, it makes more sense that it had been around 3 to 4 weeks at that point, because I feel like if it had been 6 months later, after the drugs and all that kind of thing, I'm not sure whether or not he would have had it in him to joke about wives and snoring and things like that. So I think that timing makes sense.
Well, no, the wives thing I think was when they were in jail, or sorry, when they were in the courthouse. So he,
So, yeah, he's jumping around in time, isn't he?
Yeah.
I'm trying to work that out. So, because
no,
I
that
don't
was,
know
he was
how
talking
much
about
he
the,
recovered.
I think it sounds like he did enough, a little more than I thought he did, actually, the way he's talking about it.
During the trial was the food talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
The wives thing
'Cause-
was during trial. Hug was the first one.
Right. Okay. Because that makes sense because the guards then were nice.
Yes.
The guards at Westville were nice.
No.
Right? So, yeah, this is why I'm like, I'm trying to work this all out in my head. And Andy is telling a really poignant story, but he is jumping about in
He's,
time a
all
bit
over the
here.
place.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like in those last couple of months, I mean, because he was moved, and he did start to regain a bit of weight. And
Yeah.
I mean, I remember because Sean, potentially criminal, he was talking about in the last few months there how he started to look a bit better, like health wise. But that said, I mean, it doesn't mean that we should stop worrying about him. So, I mean, I'm going off on a tangent now, but the reason I got really interested in this case was before the Franks motion. It was when he walked out into one of those
God.
hearings and he looked so sick, right? And I was like, what's happening to this man who's not even gone to trial yet? And what
And
are they
there's 20
doing to this
guards.
person? And there's 20 guards around him.
For this
What's
sickly,
happening to
frail-
this person? Yeah, I was worried for this person. That's why I got really into this. And obviously then the Franks memo happened. Anyway, let's keep going. That was hard. Okay, so now I want to go to the part where apparently, well, I mean, we all know that he was being kind of sort of pressured not to appeal. Yeah. So that was about 52 minutes in. Not too far in. Ooh. Let's go.
Rick was after the sentencing. So I had planned to go up and talk to Holman afterwards, but Jennifer took care of that apparently. I after the disgusting things that he said, and that would have not been the first time that I had confronted him. But I'm glad I didn't, because it was not appropriate, and it would not have been appropriate, and I would have probably been a little bit more animated than Jennifer was. She's a little bit more classy, probably. The reason I wasn't there is I followed Rick out, because what I wanted Rick to know was, you know, there was a drumbeat going on in that sentencing of basically don't appeal.
God.
If you really found God, you're not going to appeal, was essentially the thing that was being stated. And that was,
Disgusting.
you know, that's disgusting to me. I'm sorry. I mean, you know, with everything that has happened, you know, everybody, Rick Allen is more than anybody, but the people in Delphi, the people that have paid a lot of attention to this case throughout the world, I guess, everybody needs to have an actual resolution where the evidence actually comes in, and which is one of the reasons, you know, that the appeal is happening. But when they were, Rick is a good, like, human being, you know, when he, you know, he doesn't like that the families don't have closure. You know, that's upsetting to him. And even as an innocent person, that bothers him, because he's just like we are.
Sorry.
I mean, when he sees upsetting photographs at trial, that's upsetting to him. And so I was
That's a
worried.
really important point. That right there is a really important point. When he sees those photos, that's upsetting to him, because you know what? It's been said that it wasn't upsetting to him, right? Some people have said that he didn't show any emotion. He was just like, and even rolling his eyes and things like that when the crime scene photos came up. Some people said that.
Oh,
Right?
but then if he was looking at it, they'd say, oh, he's looking at it because he's guilty.
Oh, yeah. And they'd make up some crap about it, right? Now, I've said this a million times. A defendant showing any kind of reaction in court will always be spun in the direction of being guilty, right?
Of course.
So if you are sad in court, then you're sad for yourself. You're not sad for the victims. If you smile, you can never smile in court, right? You just can't. If you make eye contact with someone, then you're trying to psych them out, right? You just can't do anything right as a defendant in court. So that's why defense attorneys often tell their clients to like scribble on some paper or something like that, because it stops them from
Reacting.
looking around and looking guilty.
It looks like they're paying attention. They're focusing on their own defense. They're not.
Yeah. Like they're actually like doing something of some kind of use, and then he goes and people go and say that he's like passing sticky notes to somebody, and goodness me,
Not his
yeah,
lawyers?
no reaction's also a problem, but
yeah.
it's people will spin anything, right? Absolutely anything. Andy coached him and helped him with how to not look away, but not have to look. Make 4 quadrants of the photo, look at the top corners, take notes about the trees, right, a good attorney. That is perfect. That is
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and they get into that, but
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
That Rick loves his family, and he wanted them to move on, perhaps. That'd be easy for him to think that way, knowing him. I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I know Rick Allen. I mean, I know him as his lawyer, and I consider him a friend, but I consider him, to be a good person, a good human being. And I followed him out because and I told him, I said, Rick, do not get sucked in to thinking that you should not appeal this. Do not get sucked in. He sat there and said, I want to appeal it. And I was a little worried because I was sitting right next to him, and the judge asked him, do you want to appeal this? Some words to that effect. Now that actually doesn't happen that often. Usually that's decided later because we have 30 days to make decisions. So
it's like she was trying to use the pressure that they just tried to manipulate him to pressure
Allie.
him to say no right then and there.
I don't want to say that. Because I don't know why she asked. It's not completely crazy for a judge to ask that question. I mean, it does happen, but I got to say I was a little worried after that kind of pressure-filled morning of him just saying, you know what, let these families, let's just not do the appeal. I was worried that he might think that. So I ran after him, and on his, the guards, again, they're super nice guys. They were nice enough to let me kind of put my arm around him and say, hey, just ignore all that noise, okay? Because there's so many people out there fighting for you, and you're going to let all of them down. And you can't worry about, I know that you're worried about the family, the families of Abby and Libby. I know that you're worried about that, but everybody wants this thing to be completed the right way, and you not appealing this would not be the case. So get that, if that is in your mind, get it out of your mind.
Wow.
And that's the last words that I spoke to him. So Bob, after that, I will tell you that typically what happens in Indiana, there's odd things happening. But wow, what a shocker, in this case. Normally what happens when you are sentenced is you go back to the county jail, wherever you are, and you sit there for some period of time, typically at least a few days.
At least 30, right? So you can file motions.
Interesting. How did he get back to Westville so
I don't
fast?
know. Yeah, I mean, I have never thought of it that way, but I don't know why it is, but typically, it's 3, 4, 5 weeks. It's more about how the Department of Corrections, they may have 3 guys that need to get picked up in Decatur County and 2 in Shelby County. And okay, we'll just make one round trip and swing by and pick all of them up. Well, Rick went that day to RDC, a Regional Diagnostic Center in Plainfield. And that's where they do like an assessment of the right place for him to go based upon a battery of tests. And they have people talking to him. And typically that takes, I told somebody this today, actually, you're not going to be able to talk to him for 3 to 4 weeks. He's going to be in the RDC for 3 to 4 weeks minimum. And they don't allow you to talk. They're in there doing their thing. He's, and they're bringing psychologists. I don't know exactly everything that they do, but they're making assessments about the proper place for him to go. All right.
Nope.
That takes 3 to 4 weeks minimum. I mean, I've never seen it ever done more quick. Now I could be wrong, and maybe it's common to get it done in 6 days, which is what happened in this case. 6 days later, Rick Allen is back in Westville, and I just, my mind is blown by that. I don't get it. I don't want to think the things that I think, but yeah, this guy with mental health, Newcastle is a place, a DOC facility that has mental health facility. I was presuming that's where he would end up.
Okay, so out here we were all thinking the same thing, right? That what the hell is he doing back at Westfield? A, at all, but B, so fast, right? And here is Andy Baldwin saying exactly the same thing, right? That's weird. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Yes? Yes. And so there is another facility that would be more suited to him. And I don't know if he's going to say it immediately, but he goes on to say that there's 6 weeks or so until anyone gets to know at all what's going on, right? So he's just kept completely away, right? Goodness knows what they're doing to him right now. I am beside myself at the moment, like thinking what they're actually doing to him now.
But I never thought in a million years they'd be bold enough to send him back to Westville. Yet that's where he ended up. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's all perfectly on the up and up and done the right way, but it just doesn't feel right.
And it's unlike what you typically experience.
Definitely not what I typically experience with.
So in terms of what is the ability to be able to challenge where he's been housed, is there any way to go about that in Indiana?
Not really. I mean, not. I know I have a contact person at the DOC who's an attorney, and I'll reach out and say, hey, what how did this classification happen? And sometimes you can, make things happen. Sometimes you just gotta, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and sometimes the guy's like, I shouldn't be here, and they create enough, chaos or paperwork or whatever that they end up sending the guy somewhere else. But no, there's really not much that can be done. And right now, I was told, Jennifer Auger told me yesterday or a couple days ago that nobody can talk to Rick, not even Kat. We called Kathy, his wife, have you talked to him? And apparently for 6 to 8 weeks, nobody's going to be able to talk to him. That's also weird. Once you're placed at the DOC, and maybe I'm wrong on this. I mean, if I'm ever wrong, I will own it. I don't have any issue owning stuff. And if I'm talking out my rear end and then later on, it's like, no, it's standard. When you show up to wherever you're going, wherever the RDC folk tell you to go, you're not supposed to talk. You're not allowed to talk to your family members for 6 to 8 weeks. If I'm wrong on that, then I will own that. But I don't think that is the way that it typically is. Most of the time, you don't talk to them while they're at the RDC because for whatever reason. But when they get to their destination, then they can have communication.
Yeah, I am used to they've got to fill out paperwork to say who they want.
Okay. So I just want to interrupt it and give my thoughts to Melissa Stimmock. She's a long-time member. I'm so sorry to hear that, Melissa. I hope that your house and everything there will be fine. Your pugs, I love you much, and take care. We'll be thinking
safe.
about you. Wow. Now, okay, it's 6 to 8 weeks, and he's back exactly where he was. Guaranteed, he's back in segregation. There's no way he's in Gen Pop. He'll be back, right back exactly where he was. They they'll be back at their antics for sure. Right? He's in hell again. He's in hell again, and now he's convicted. Now there's no holding back. Right? I am just, what can be done? Nothing, right? Like Andy said, nothing really. There's nothing that can really be done. Yeah, he's back in hell. Yes, he's in the Westfield Control Unit. It's like, can we all get out there and protest? Can there be, I will protest on this continent. Let's protest on every continent. Let's get in front of, like, Trump is in a few weeks. Let's get in front of him. You know, there's got to be something we can do to stop someone being tortured. And I really don't care if he's been convicted or not. I do not care. It doesn't matter whether someone is convicted of anything. We don't torture people. This is out of control. Make noise, yes. Okay. The next thing I wanted to get to was this thing about podcasters contacting Richard. Dear me. That's quite a while in. 360.
Does it rhyme with hey muse?
I don't think so.
No.
This particular one.
I wouldn't put it past him.
No. I'm not going to speculate on that.
Dr. Wallace's notes that I didn't know about at the time. I read. We can read. We lawyers would get. It was really just all the time. It was never ending. Once the DOC stuff came into play, the DOC, correctly started giving us everything, every video, every time anybody reached out to Richard, because, that could happen. I mean, when you're in prison, you can connect with people and let them, I don't know exactly how it works or whatever. I don't know if you have to give them approval of reaching out to you, but we did get emails that Richard would get. And I'm here at this very desk, and we got a drop of all these things that we would get from time to time. And I don't remember what month it was, but I looked at it and I knew that this was from a podcaster, and I wouldn't say that they lied or tried to trick him. I think it was just a straight up, question about, do you want to plead guilty and your lawyers won't let you, something along those lines.
But they were leaked information, then used that.
I didn't know about it at that time. I didn't know about it, and I was like, what is that? That's just weird. I had too many other things to worry about, and I wasn't, I was bothered that people were reaching out to him and asking such things, but I didn't really think anything about it because I knew that I just thought that's a weird thing. Well, then I feel like it was a couple weeks later, we got, I think I was on the phone with Brad, and Brad said something like, hey, did you know that in Walla's notes, she claims that Rick said that he wants to plead guilty, but we won't let him. I'm like, what? That's crazy or whatever. That's, and then I was like, oh, wait. Okay. A couple weeks ago, I saw an email from somebody. How did they know about that? And by the way, let me say this. I don't fault the podcaster. You might not agree with this. I don't know. Their jobs, part of their jobs, I'm not talking about these particular people, but I'm talking you guys. prosecution diaries or whatever. All these different people that have, if part of their job is to have sources, these people had sources. And they're doing what they should be doing, I suppose. My bother was that, if I don't know, I don't listen to the podcast that we're talking about, but if I did, I don't know whether they treated me fairly that way too. Like if they got that leak,
they treated no one fairly. We don't even mention their names on our podcast.
Well, if they got that leak from a law enforcement source, and I don't know whether they did, or from Dr. Waller, they got it from somebody. And if they are running things about me that claiming that I'm leaking stuff, and then there's people leaking to them, that's where I have a problem. I don't have any issue with anybody having sources. That's their job. It's wrong if I get blamed for inaccurately blamed for leaking stuff when it didn't happen, and there's actual leaks that are known, and that's not. I don't expect them to go out and say, we got this information from a leak source. And maybe they got it from a legitimate source. I don't know. But it was just certainly weird that they knew about this and asked Richard. Well, by the way, it could have just been a random question that they asked too, I suppose. I mean, I'm trying to be as generous as I can here. Okay.
He's being so nice. Right?
Yeah.
Like, what is with being so nice about the fact that someone from some podcast contacted his client and tried to talk him into pleading guilty, right? That's what we're talking about here, right? And goodness knows what else got leaked. Yeah? So stuff that's out here in the public that people are talking about, it somehow, we don't know what got said to Rick. Right? Van. White van.
Yeah.
Yeah? We don't know. DB says, so I stopped by Sleuth's Intuition today and see Bob in there chatting. Turbo was attacking him and asking him how Ali knew about the podcaster talking to Ricky. Maybe she is a bit of an investigative journalist, right? Kind of like they were talking about at the beginning. Because investigative journalism is dead. Well, the traditional kind is. Maybe she's just kind of good at this. Anyway.
We had also heard that the podcasters contacted him when I was talking about lied to him and tricked him and said that his wife was trying to divorce him.
Oh yeah. I don't know again if that was being done in I think that was I'm trying to be generous here. I really am, guys. I mean, I think it was more of we've heard this through whatever source. Is it true? So that, trying to use their methods and abilities to, I try to be objective. I really do, guys. I really do. I mean, I understand where people could be upset at any podcaster for doing that. But, Richard did it. If he accepted it and he's willing to answer it, there's nothing that I can do about that. And that's what people that are trying to find, if they're curious, I'm a big curiosity guy. And, if you're curious and you're trying to find out information, that's what I wanted out of law enforcement. That's what I wanted out of a lot of people. So trying to be objective here, I can't really find fault in people trying to gain information as long as it's being fairly handled in terms of the way that they present all the facts from both sides.
But if they're getting information directly from the state, like knowing what's in Walla's notes before the defense does.
Yeah. I don't know if that's,
that.
And using that information to try and get Richard Allen to say something, and then using something with no factual support that his wife's trying to divorce him in hopes that he's saying something. What about his
that wasn't true. I mean, Kathy, that was never a consideration. She's still 100% supports him. And again, I'm just not going, I just, if people are curious and they're trying to find out information, I just can't blame. I am who I am. I can't blame people for doing that.
I'm blaming them.
They've.
Yeah.
Oh, and Andy froze.
He's just
Good. He was trying to not blame them.
Why did Andy freeze?
Let's give him a sec.
That's great.
Maybe he'll come back. If he can hear us, he can refresh his screen at the top where it says StreamYard, where we had that little star before.
Good. He was trying to not
Click on there
blame
and press enter. It might bring him right on back.
Let me see.
I'm on, Sean. Andy.
Well, guys, I don't know, but I find it completely offensive that two podcasters would contact Richard Allen in any way, shape, or form with complete nonsense. And I speak directly about this. His wife wanted to divorce him thing, which was made up out of whole cloth. I mean, if you're not gonna fact check before you try to reach out to a man in prison, and I don't know. And if they're also using information leaked by the state, I mean, I didn't know that. I was talking about the lie about Richard Allen's wife divorcing him, contacting him with information they got from the state before the defense even knew it. The audacity. There he is.
Nice.
You froze.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize to everybody that had to look at my face.
Brad said that you probably need to shovel some coal in the back of that 20-year-old desktop of yours. Talk.
All right. So yeah, I mean, this is the thing. Like, if Ali knows about this stuff, then like she's good at this, right? Like, but so what? Like, she's not the one who went and contacted Rick Allen and tried to talk him into pleading guilty or tried to like leak information to him. She didn't do that. Somebody else did. I'm not going to try and speculate as to who that was on this channel, but yeah, it's freaking gross, AG. Okay, so anyway, Catastrophe says it's like, what came first, info in Waller Notes or as an after the fact way to justify some bullshit to a podcaster? I don't know, chicken and the egg kind of situation, isn't it?
Yep.
All I know is that there are plenty of ways that Richard Allen could have known about there being a white van. And he didn't even say white van, by the way. He just said van.
Yeah.
Right? There are so many ways he could have known about that. And that is reasonable doubt, right? So really, when it comes down to it, this information that only the killer could know is such bullshit. It's just such a generic bullshit piece of information, and how that could be something that the state could hang their hat on, to me, it's
It was
ludicrous.
so generic and just...
It's just nothing. It's just a nothing burger. Right. So anyway, next thing I wanted to look at was the death threats. Okay. Yeah. Righto.
Talking about your computer.
Oh. Yeah, I mean, just to finish that conversation, I don't have any fault. I try to be consistent in my life, and I've never faulted anybody for going out and getting sources. I prefer that journalists go get sources and try to find out the truth, as long as it's being done fairly. And I don't know what happened with any of that. I can't pretend to know. It does seem odd that somebody knew something that I didn't know. And I don't know how they knew it. I mean, I don't even know if we had received that stuff yet. I didn't, because Brad got, I hadn't got that stuff yet. So
well, we, the public, didn't know it. That's for sure. So
yeah,
I can guarantee you, if you knew some of the coverage, you wouldn't think it was fair. But maybe,
I don't. You know
maybe
what?
they're going to change their opinion, and they're going to make everything right now on politics in the world.
I think. Listen, that's fine. I don't mind, even tough interviews, as long as it's fair. I've always said that. I don't really, but when it's unfair and there's things that aren't accurate, but I don't listen to podcasts, so I don't really know. I know what my friends have said, and I know what.
Come on, you've got to know, because all of us shill defense attorneys have been telling you guys all of this stuff.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I've heard bits and pieces from different things, that one and others, and I try not to be angry about stuff. I mean, it's, as long as it's fair, that's what I care about. And, I wish everybody well. I want, I wish
How
everybody
is he
well.
so nice?
I had a sentencing today where I wanted, there was a victim, and after it was over, I went over to her and I said, I wish you well. I want, I want good things for you. I wish you well. And that's kind of my attitude about it. I mean, but be fair, be honorable, and, there's going to be people, well, you're not honorable or whatever, and you don't know me. And that's fine if you believe that. I'm a big boy. I had death threats. One of the guys that threatened me multiple times, by the way, Jerry and Doug, I'm sure that you investigated those death threats on me that were actual intimidation. It's a crime, okay, against me. And yes. I'm sure that you were really, moving in on that, especially since I saw the guy at the courthouse in the courtroom. Okay. And, and that's fine. I don't care. You can threaten me and all that. But don't pretend, Doug and Jerry, like you're really you're equal justice for everybody. No, you weren't for the defense. You definitely weren't for me. Otherwise, if I was threatened with death, for being a defense lawyer, that's a crime in Indiana. Okay. It is.
It's a crime everywhere, I think.
Investigated.
And it should have been investigated. And I'm sure that's, the leaks, those should have been investigated, and they weren't. It's just be fair. What
can you tell us about other things that have leaked? I know that I thought there was some mention at trial or something about like a picture of the crime scene at night or.
Okay, we'll carry on with that in a moment. But yes, death threats to him. I don't think the prosecution, I don't think that the law enforcement are going to
they don't care.
Give a shit, really. And honestly, they happen. Like I know defense attorneys here that it happens to. Like it does.
Yeah.
It happens not even on high profile cases. It happens because victims' families, people involved who feel strongly about the guilt of the defendant don't like the defense attorney who is fighting for their rights, and so then they go and threaten them. So it happens really regularly. So it's most of the time, well, almost all of the time, fortunately, it's a nothing burger, and it just doesn't get investigated. But then, like, if it's kind of like what's good for the goose is good for the gander. Like, I know that there's been threats against Holman and their team. So I mean, they got hurt fees over that. Yeah. So I mean, this guy here, Andy, is taking it pretty well. I'd like to see the prosecution side be as grown up about it, to be honest. Yeah, it is. It's a crime. It's a crime. So it's not nothing. It's not nothing. Wasn't it a podcaster that also threatened his family? I don't know, Hot Pocket. I don't know. Can we move the captions to the top? Sure, no problem. Can do. Like so. It might be over. I'll put it in the middle so it's not over Ali. How's that? Okay, no problem. Okay. I think the state was pissed that Andy and Brad did the right thing with the Westerman League. Look, yes, but the state gets pissed when just they do anything, right? They get pissed about everything. And they blame, they love putting blame out. Like, look who we got.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, I'm sorry.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I meant to come hang out earlier, and then you know how I do. So, but I'm glad.
Yeah.
I've been listening and chatting and bullshitting though. Yeah. How you doing? That was pretty emotional. I cried for the first time with y'all watching that for the third time.
That was rough.
Mate, welcome. First time in here. So nice to have you. Oh, love. Look, it is emotional. And I like, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, I feel so helpless because he's in there again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's insane. It is. That's a perfect word. It's just like an entirely helpless feeling. I don't even know.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know. And yeah, it's just like, how far away are you living from there?
From Indiana?
Yeah.
So I'm in New York and North Carolina. So pretty far. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's a few locals probably in chat, and I'm really interested to know if, like, once he is hopefully out of segregation, like, if anyone can visit him, if there's any way of getting to see him. As soon as someone can see him, anybody, guys, like, let's check on him. Let's find out what's going on. Because yeah, I mean, generally prisoners can have visitors and stuff. So I
As long
want
as
to
it's
know.
not during COVID.
Yeah. But I'm really worried about him right now. I just feel like this is their chance to just have their way, you know. So,
Yeah.
and I just hope he makes it, because it's gonna be a while. It's gonna be quite a while.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming in here. Let's keep looking. So where were we at? The death threats, and also
Something that wasn't in discovery but was circling in the community, or something like that.
I don't know. I mean, I had heard that the way that Holman and those guys, there was a theory out there, according to my friends, that they thought, oh, there's other leaks out there, and they're trying to put a narrative out there right now that talking about the leaks from the defense, so that when these new leaks come out of whatever, that they can blame the defense. And that's why they're doing this making these weird statements at press conferences and whatever. And I don't know anything about what you're talking about. Okay. I mean, I don't want to seem like an oblivious dolt, but I'm an oblivious dolt. I don't know about this stuff. I just don't. I'm not. There's people that, and by the way, I appreciate all of the love from all of the people. I do, from all of the podcasters that are out there. But don't be offended that I don't listen to you, because I don't.
It was one of the first things you told me. You're like, Bob, I just like, I just want to let you know. I've got to be honest with you. I've never listened to, I've never watched or listened to any of your content. It's like, well, my wife, she loves you. They're big fans. So yeah, I was trying to tell people, like, and it's the same story with Brad. You guys really are both Luddites when it comes to.
Nah, they just don't listen. That's fine. All right, let's go forward. I want to have a look at the claim of Holman. Holman claims of them being responsible for the leak. So that is about 343. Here we go.
Uniform the whole way through. I don't remember what you just asked, Allie. I don't remember.
And I wish I could remember specifically, but I know that it happened. I just can't remember the question. Were there motions and substantive arguments that took place in chambers or before or after the public left the courtroom? If you can remember, if you can't.
Oh, I remember one Saturday morning, November the 9th, or Saturday afternoon. That'll be. I don't really feel comfortable talking about that. I'm very irritated about it, though.
Oh.
And people will understand why eventually. It has to do with one of the things that Holman claims is that he thinks we were talking to and releasing leaking information to podcasters during the trial, and that Saturday afternoon situation has to do with that, which was a total lie. And I'm very bitter about it, and I don't really want to talk about it right now. I'm doing something about it, though. I'm doing something about it. But
Okay.
What's he doing about it? What's he doing about it, do you think?
I totally missed that the first like 2.5 times I watched this. So is he saying, and I'm sorry to like come in and like, is he saying that the Saturday jury deliberation had to do like with something was like, what is he talking about there?
Well,
I totally missed that.
I think they worked Saturdays, at least in the morning.
Yes.
So I imagine he's talking one of the Saturdays after everybody left, they had a closed door hearing then in the afternoon about supposed leaks or something by them.
Like, don't they have anything better to be doing on a Saturday halfway through trial than, you know what I mean? Like, they're obsessed with these leaks that aren't even happening. I mean, they're happening from one side, but...
Well, true. But it's all about making the defense look bad. It's all about that moment of the press conference of being able to go, they did this stuff. We live by that gag order, echo chamber. It's all about the gag order and how they did this terrible thing.
I do remember one or a couple days during the trial, the crime scene pics were showing up on Twitter. Maybe it was about that. I don't know. I mean,
but like once they're out and they're the same pictures that they had addressed with criminal charges and a contempt hearing, neither of which ended up resulting in anything. Yeah, a year ago. Like, the pictures are out there, so they show up again on Twitter, and that sucks. Yeah. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do? You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like, they're out. Like, what are we talking about again a year later? It's like, oh my God.
It's purely for show. Like, this is all a big PR thing. Yeah. It's purely about making the prosecution, the state, look like the good guys, and like the defense look like these scumbags. And then and once the gag order was lifted, it was all on. We saw it. That's all they wanted to talk about. And hi Paige, and also thank you, Dali, for the gifted memberships earlier. How many were there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey! Thank you to my co-host.
Of course. I do them one at a time so I get to see my name more often.
That's right. You do. Even though I don't even call you that anymore generally. Let's keep going.
On high alert for that. There was one time.
About being fair.
I hear you.
Be fair.
You're way fairer than I am.
Yeah.
But and we're like running out of time, but one of the big things I wanted to talk about was
I still kept going for an hour after this.
The state's assertion that this information about the van was information that only the killer could have known. And I do know that you did try to get in some information in, I think might have been Mullen was one of them on the redirect of him.
I don't remember
about the fact that the van had been out in the public since, for some time. For example, and I pulled one of the strongest examples up before us today. There was one that said the private drive under the south end of the Monon Bridge turns into North 625 West. There was a white van stopped close to the CC transfer station on North 625 West, less than 2 miles from the bridge. And then some camera had captured it on a traffic camera, but I couldn't access that. And there was one other also.
What date was that?
That was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
As of whatever day of trial, this whole he said a van thing came out. Yeah. And then there was one more, and I guess I didn't take a photo of it, that it also mentioned specifically, what about that van that was seen on 625? Did they ever figure out, who that was? But my question is, there was a day, and I don't have it right in front of me, where the judge said that that the defense tendered a petition or a motion or something in writing, and I'm not letting that in. And it went into the record, so you can still talk about it. Was that related to that information, or do you even remember what that was?
I don't know what you're talking about there, Allie, but I will tell you that Brian Harshman got up on the stand, and this is either, I'll just, trying to be even-handed here, I'll account it as sloppiness. He got up on the stand, and I believe he's a very cop guy, he's a very cop-looking guy. With his very
cop-looking guy.
And a very serious guy, and I'm a very important guy. and this is a guy who watched a human being, deteriorate right in front of his eyes, and all he cared about, instead of trying to get this guy help, he wanted to, get additional stuff that helps out, and it's not very palatable to me. But also, what is not palatable is when he got up on the stand, and I believe said something along the lines of, nobody would know about a van out in the public, period. And there's the only person that would know, like you said earlier, is Richard Allen, when all he had to do was a basic Google search, and these 22, 23 things would pop up, and there's probably a heck of a lot more. And so then all it would take is Walla, who's, infatuated with this case, to go to Richard Allen and say, knowing that there's a white van in the vicinity, hey, Richard, did you see a white van? Is that what happened? Mm-hmm. If she's even telling the truth about in her notes at all, she might be totally lying about that and trying to involve herself. But even if if Richard did say something, we don't know what that interaction was, because she got rid of her notes. There's no tape recording mysteriously. And by the way, and so when Harshman got up and said that, it's just a lie. It's either a lie or it's sloppiness. It's the same thing that Mullen tried to do with the car, with the number of Ford Focuses in the area. It's either being sloppy or they know the answer and they're not being true.
I have a problem with this, or a question, I suppose. And I asked Andrea about this when she came on the channel. And because I said to her, did the defense ever bring up the fact that the van could have been fed, like the information about the van could have been fed to Richard Allen by Dr. Waller, or even by the guards? Like, do they make it really clear to the jury that he could have got that information from elsewhere? And Andrea said no. I could find that in my interview with her. Mm-hmm. So, like, she couldn't recall if she couldn't recall that it was like clearly pointed out to them that that was the case. Yeah. So, I find I had a bit of a moment there with Andrea. I was like, really? Like, why? And it seems like, and now Andy is being very clear that, like, he realizes it, like he knows. So, I mean, there's clearly things that they could have done better, and I'm not here to go, oh, they did something so terrible. But I feel like that's a real big opportunity missed.
Yeah, my understanding was that the van info, like the concrete connection between, at the very least, Walla's info making its way to a public YouTube channel before it had been made known to anyone. That information was finally kind of like pieced together and laid out in a way that could be like given to the defense. I want to say, like, towards the end of trial, the problem was that Gull was not, and that doesn't really, again, address the notion that Walla could very well have fed that info to Rick. That just kind of supports or suggests that there were leaks out of Walla's notes.
Yep.
But I don't believe that Gull would allow any of that to come in, you know, whether it was hearsay or not, like it couldn't be proven because it was social media. I mean, there's this weird component with like social media. It's like so ever present in this case, and yet they act like it's not relevant. Or like, yeah. So I don't know, but I agree with you. There were things that, could have certainly been done.
I mean, it definitely came up on Cross that she was in these groups.
Yes.
Right? Like, that was definitely in, that went on the record, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just, I feel like, assuming this goes back to trial, and let's all be positive, it's going back to trial, right? Now, there needs to be evidence of her being in groups where there is discussion of a van, right? Her being privy to that information, and so therefore she needs to be questioned as to whether it's possible she could have mentioned the van.
Right.
Right. And I mean, the way it's questioned is really important. Like, she could very well go, no, there's just no way I could have done that. But she's not a reliable witness. Like, she's clearly able to be impeached really easily. Her words, like, she on direct, she'll be fine, but then we already have seen that on cross-examination, she gets pulled to pieces. So, I feel like that's just one thing that could have been a real avenue for reasonable doubt. And
I agree. Yeah. I think the component of the DOC's attorneys are like, they're like bulldogs. You don't, like, going up against the DOC, you might as well go up against like Doug Carter. You know, it's so I know that Walla, as a contractor with DOC, like, they have a vested interest in protecting her from that kind of scrutiny. And so I know, like, at the summer hearings, that was really, she was just getting like shredded to bits on the stand. And so I don't know, like, how much they were even allowed to, like, how much access they even had to her. It would be nice if Gull would release the transcript of the public hearing that was already like public. For whatever reason, she won't, and I suspect it's because Walla, like you said, just fell apart during that hearing, and they were trying to protect her.
She did.
But, I don't know.
They were only allowed to strict cross her. What do you mean? Strict? I'm not familiar with that term, Kat.
Educate his cat.
Yeah, what does that mean? Right, okay, so guys. Apparently, Mr. Rossi has something on tonight, and he has to be out of there early or something, and then they're going to do two parts of an interview or something. Is that what did you hear that right?
I think so. Yeah, I'll take as much roses as I can get, honestly. So, like, no complaint for me.
And and they're going to be all three of them on Lawyer Lee. Do you know when?
I think so. Didn't we hear
Saturday?
Is it Saturday? Okay, I know that tomorrow Lawyer Lee is at least at least Jennifer and Andy, and I don't know why I'm not remembering if Brad will be there, but I'm pretty sure it's tomorrow. But I don't know.
Okay.
It's tomorrow.
Okay. So we don't know. Hey, we don't know which day is the second one. I think we'll find out tonight. All right. So maybe it won't go for 4 hours tonight. Are you streaming again, Ange, after?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm hoping it's earlier. Last night was a lot. Last night was weird. But yes, no, that's my plan. So we'll just kind of hang out and process.
DB, stop it. You call me a Kiwi, you lose your wrench, right? Cool. Yeah. All right, so I'll be doing this again tomorrow, but not this early. I'll probably do it at Because there's no. Hang on. What time? Sorry. What time is tomorrow's one with Lily?
Good
Oh
question.
no, it's Saturday.
6 or 7.
It's not. There's none tomorrow.
Let's see.
If there's none tomorrow, then I'll do this one at my normal time, which is like 6 p.m. Eastern, or maybe even 7 p.m. Eastern. 6 p.m. Eastern. I'll go 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll do a bit of a wrap up tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Eastern. And I'm not a New Zealand farmer, Mavka. Yeah. So, yeah.
Lawyerly doesn't have it posted anywhere.
I
Unless
just checked
you
her
think she would.
channel.
You'd think she would, wouldn't you?
I know.
All right,
Bob will tell
turn
us.
your
Get it wrong.
turn your notifications on, guys. Heavy bell. Put the heavy bell on, and make sure that you also follow on Twitter as well. I'm sure Ange will share if you're also following her. And I'll see you guys in chat. We're going to redirect right now. So we'll be straight over. Make sure you say hello, Raid. Hella, Raid. And then afterwards, after party at her place. Yay! Let's go Rossying. And it's time for the song. Time for the song. Let's go.
Her name was Helen. She was an Aussie. She was a fake lawyer from the future. She got on YouTube and made some live streams. Her co-host is Dolly and she dances sometimes. The words are always alarming because she's an 803. To the attention, excited utterance. Her cat is